Hi there, I'm Sally Stubbs. I'm delighted to be speaking with you again, and hey, let's make these few minutes that we've got together here really useful for yourself, for the world, useful and important and interesting. So you may have heard me say before an experience that I had when I was 18 years old. I'm happy to share this with you, with anybody really. I didn't used to be. I used to be quite shy about sharing this experience in case I was thought of as a bit strange, but hey, maybe I am a bit strange. And when I was 18, I will have what I could describe as maybe a spiritual experience, an epiphany, a kind of awakening, when I was maybe told, I don't know where from, that the mind can cure itself. That's it in a nutshell. And it was very powerful. And so at 18, I decided I could set about assisting, curing the world of mind emotional suffering. I'm doing pretty good at that, and I'm going to carry on, because my vision, my dream would be for all of us to live on our wondrous planet in peace and harmony, fun and laughter, joy, kindness, all of that. So a little bit more about myself. During the late 1980s and through to the late 1990s, I was what was called a consultant to the juvenile justice team here in the north of England, which meant that I was privileged to be working with young people, girls and boys, between the ages of 14 and 17, who in our legal system here in England had called these young people young offenders. So on their horizon was the possibility of prison sentence. And I loved working with these youngsters. They were delightful. They could be cheeky, mischievous, raucous, but just lovely young people. And I worked closely with members of that juvenile justice team during those 10 years. And I was also privileged to work with top barrister for a while, Chancery Lane in England. That kind of summons up all kinds of stories, wondrous stories of Chancery Lane in London here. All those members of that team, including this amazing barrister, informed me over and over again that they had never come across a bad child. And once or twice the word evil was mentioned as well, that they had never come across an evil child. Although, according to our law, and we need those laws, they were young offenders. The team and this barrister would refer to them as lost girls and lost boys. So this has led me to consider with you today something that I've really been led to believe in, and that is that as newborn babies and young infants, we are born pristine. Now, in my religious upbringing as a child, I was led to believe that babies are born with a sin on their soul, and I would never have any wish whatsoever to trample on anybody's beliefs, important beliefs. So yeah, beliefs, as long as they are supportive and celebrating of life, wonderful. We do need our beliefs. But I strongly believe, not through just that experience of those so-called young offenders, but through massive reading and experiencing people in the last 30 years, we are born pristine. And please, if you want to debate with me, I'd love to hear from you. Just email me at this email address, support@sally-stubbs.com, or support@sally, if you're in America, -stubbs.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to debate these kind of points with you. So, where am I going with this? If you could consider for a moment, and maybe even imagine that newborn baby, that infant, hanging out, chilling out in the world as pristine, and that within their consciousness, what they have available to them is pure potential. And the big people around the baby, the infant, the big people's responsibility is to keep that little one safe. Little ones will explore places that are too high, too hot, too cold, too sharp, and they need an explanation and to be kept safe so that they can continue to grow and explore that potential within their own consciousness. So if we consider that as the conscious and unconscious worlds of those aspects of the mind are developing, that there's a movement between the conscious and unconscious. There's a movement of ideas, creativity, wisdom. So both the conscious and unconscious mind, of course, are necessary to our development during our wonderful life here on our gorgeous planet. So what is it that I do in following my dream since I was an 18-year-old to assist curing the mind, and the mind curing itself of that mind emotional pain and suffering? What happens to us as we're developing that young infant is that the realms of the unconscious mind are so amazingly creative. Can you remember yourself what was maybe one of your favorite toys? I know for me and for many of my friends that one of their favorite toys would be a big cardboard box. And what does the unconscious do with that big cardboard box? It creates the most amazing worlds of palaces and magic and how to build a rocket to go to Mars. Anything can be created in that cardboard box within the unconscious mind. And then, should I use the word sadly? I think I will. Sadly, as that young infant is developing into childhood, maybe teenage years, the big people around us, with no ill intention, pretty much 99% of the time, no ill intention, will import messages into the unconscious mind of that child or that youngster. And those messages are mucky, they're stinky, they're not the truth. Messages as simple as, and yet as powerful to that child as, you're stupid, you're useless, you should never have been born. These messages can import into the consciousness of a child by the simple raised eyebrows, and glare from the eyes of an important big person in their life. So what I'm doing as an overview is assisting the mind's own wisdom and creativity to resolve those blocks that stop that flow of energy between the unconscious worlds and the conscious mind. So really, my main discipline for many, many years will be called hypnotherapy. So I am a clinical hypnotherapist. And clinical hypnotherapy has had, in recent history, quite a strange movement to it. That from the mid-19th century, we had the neurosurgeons Charcot in Paris, excuse the pronunciation, and his genius student Janet. Now they were using hypnotherapy in those years, and that kind of hypnotherapy is called authoritarian. So it's the zzz, swing a watch, look into my eyes, I'm going to take control here, I'm going to hypnotize you, I'm going to push your conscious mind out of the way, and I'm going to tell your unconscious mind what to do. Even Janet himself, back there then in the mid-19th century, realized that this kind of authoritarian work is stupid. It doesn't work. The reason it's stupid is because the unconscious mind isn't stupid, and it is not simplistically going to be told to remove those kind of blocks which cause that suffering and pain in our life, because the unconscious mind doesn't know, even in its wisdom, that it's safe to simply go, oh, okay, this authoritarian person has told me to remove these blocks, I'll just do that. It wants to and will do, maybe for a few days or a few weeks, but then those blocks just rise back up again. That kind of hypnotherapy, sadly, is still globally used, and it doesn't work. Then, in the mid-20th century, along came the great Dr. Milton Erickson. Now, he had different ideas, and he would call these hypnotic type states naturalistic trance states. Milton Erickson was very clear that the unconscious mind had within its realms its own wisdom and creativity. And that worked really well, and I really, really have great respect for that man. However, hypnotherapy really did need to continue to evolve and to move on. And how it's done that recently is there are one or two pioneers out there moving it on, is that I have developed this form of therapy which we've called Rapha. And Rapha is named after the Hebrew master of healing. We really like this name Rapha. And reading about Rapha, one of the great things I like about that masterful healing is its gentleness and its absolute respect for every individual. So the Rapha healing is all kinds of therapeutic strategies that I've brought together, and for want of a better way of putting it, I've polished and cleaned up. Oh yeah, the acronym. There's a great acronym for RAFA, which is a resilient amalgamation of psychophysical healing approaches. So that's great. And I've polished up all these strategies which hand back the control to each individual within their own unconscious realms, assisting the right deconstruction of those blocks to, as I said earlier, a joyful life, a life of celebration, kindness, fun, laughter, and love. Yeah. So I think that's about it for today. And if you have any points that you'd like to debate with me, please email me. I'd love to hear from you, join in a debate with you, or just any questions, contact me on that email address, support@sally-stubbs.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope you found it useful, these few moments that we spent together. Talk to you again soon.